Some legendary Pokemon are just completely terrible. You've got your box arts like Ho-Oh, Rayquaza, and Giratina that you can catch before the Elite Four, and they help dramatically increase your team's power to finish out the game and become champion. But there's actually a lot of legendary Pokemon that you can catch before beating the game, and they don't help you at all. And so today we're looking at the top 10 worst in-game legendary Pokemon. And starting things off at number 10, we have Suicune in Gold and Silver. Now, this list is a spectrum, and Suicune certainly isn't the hot garbage that you're going to see towards the top of this list. So you're gonna have to watch all the way through if you're here for the garbage parade. And I think in the case of Suicune for its debut games, it's really just an underperformer. First off, let's look at its build. Suicune is an insanely bulky Pokemon with 115 in both defenses and 100 HP. It boasts a, by Gen 2 standard, a very solid special attack of 90, and its 85 speed is enough to get the jump on most important enemies. The first big issue in Gold and Silver is availability. Unlike Crystal, Suicune is not available after the 7th gym as a static encounter, and it's just another roamer like Raikou and Entei. Now, people love to gas up the legendary beasts because they're technically available before the 4th gym. But if you want to catch it early and get all the assumed benefits, you're going to have to put in hours just to catch it. And this just takes so long that the cost to do it is so much bigger than any time or effort an early Suicune would actually save you. And so the best way to use Suicune is to catch it with a Master Ball after the 8th gym. But unfortunately, at level 40 with no stat experience, Suicune is just heading into the league very under-equipped. In Gold and Silver, Suicune comes with the moves Gust, Roar, Water Gun, and Leer. Let's be honest, this learn set looks like you put a Growlithe and a Wingull in a blender and made a secret third Pokemon drink the disgusting smoothie. And what's even more disgusting is that one level later, its first level up, and the only one you'll get before the champion, is Bubble Beam, which is just completely outclassed by the surf that you gave it the moment you caught it. Now, like all water types, Suicune really wants a good ice move because it doesn't have any support moves to make use of its great bulk. Now, in Gold and Silver, there's just no way to get the move Ice Beam on a Pokemon that doesn't naturally learn it. Suicune doesn't have hands, so it can't learn Ice Punch, and Blizzard is relegated to a 110,000 expense at the game corner. So unless you're insanely good with your money, Suicune is running Icy Wind as its secondary support move. The only time you ever actually want to use Icy Wind is against Lance's Dragonites, which is a roll to two-shot. Really, the best use case for Suicune is giving it Rain Dance, which you can find at the bottom of Slowpoke Well. It's always bulky enough to take a few hits, so with Rain Dance, you can kind of turn it into like an actually pretty strong Pokemon. But when you're out here comparing a bulky surf spammer to the absolute monstrosities that are most legendaries, you gotta admit that Suicune's debut performance is just not that impressive. Number 9. Uxie. So Uxie is one of the 3 Lake Guardians, and as your big first tell as to why it's bad, Uxie is the one of the 3 that specializes in defense. With 130 in both its defenses and 95 speed, Uxie is just kind of awkward as this like really big wall that is awkwardly fast and would really like a bit more attack. Now, on the bright side, Uxie is a static encounter, which you can get after defeating Team Galactic at Spear Pillar. Now, with an easy Master Ball catch, it comes at level 50, and you've basically got it for 6 major fights. Now, coming at level 50 does prime it to be pretty solid for the Volkner fight. You start the serious fights in the league against Aaron, who is a Bug-type trainer with a lot of dark moves. After that, you've got Bertha, which Uxie actually is pretty decent at because it has Levitate to avoid Earthquake, and a lot of these Pokemon have pretty low special defense. The problem, though, is that Sandstorm is going to get set, which then raises all these Pokemon's special defense, so Uxie is not as good as you even might think here. We've then got Flint, which finally gives Uxie a super effective matchup against his Infernape, and I would say the Lucian fight is fine, because you can resist his Psychic moves, teach it Shadow Ball, and it will at least do decent damage. Now, as for Cynthia, it's awful against Spiritomb, and unfortunately doesn't learn any Ice moves, moves to theoretically one-shot her Garchomp. Not even super effective against Lucario because it's part steel. Unfortunately, the only Pokemon it's really going to help you out here for is against Roserade. There is one thing though that stops Uxie from being really bad and just an underperforming legendary. And it's the fact that not only does it come with Yawn, but it also learns Thunder Wave. The big thing that Uxie does great is being able to take hits from nearly everything and then clap back with status. Now, objectively and in a vacuum, you would say that that combination is actually really good. So I don't think you can say it's strictly bad. It's just that compared to other legendaries, like even Azelf, it's not really contributing what you would expect of a legendary Pokemon. At the very least though, it costs little to get and can help out in every major fight. Our next Pokemon shows the costs of high costs. Number 8. Registeel. Registeel is an interesting case for a Pokemon because it's actually quite useful in the league. And the big problem with this thing is that it's just really hard to get. Okay, we all know the deal at this point. In order to get a Reggie, you gotta catch a Relicanth, you gotta catch a Wailord, and then you gotta do like 18 chamber puzzles, fly all across Hoenn just to encounter this Pokemon. This is why Registeel is bad. You just spent 2 hours that could have been used training up your team or even just challenging the league. And so it's a case of where the moment you catch Registeel, you are already so deep into the red that it's very hard for it to make up all that time you just spent acquiring it, which is unfortunate because Registeel is actually quite good. So rather than specializing in one specific defense stat, Registeel has 150 in both. That is ridiculous. But what's even crazier is that in Gen 3, Steel resists Ghost and Dark, so the only things that hit it for neutral damage are Water and Electric, and then Fighting, Fire, and Ground are its 3 weaknesses. These 2 things then synergize amazingly. Unfortunately, Registeel only has 75 in both its attack stats, and its learn set looks like this. Stab, Metal Claw, and Ancient Power is basically all Registeel can do. Now, you can teach it moves like Thunderbolt, but with 75 special attack, it feels like a pretty big waste. And this leads me to the fact that really the best thing Registeel can do outside of Stab, Metal Claw is just toxic stalling. In the league, it walls everything but Sydney's water type. Unfortunately though, next up is Phoebe, who just has so many alternative damage methods like Curse, Confusion, and Will-O-Wisp that it's not really that great here. In Ruby and Sapphire, 3 of Glacier's Pokemon have water moves, so its Metal Claw isn't even enough to solo a super effective matchup. Now, it should be amazing against Drake, but it is unfortunately once again not. Because in Ruby and Sapphire, Drake has 2 Flygons and a Salamence with Flamethrower, so Registeel actually can't really contribute here. And then of course there's Champion Steven, whose every Pokemon either has Earthquake, is immune to Toxic, or resists Steel. So Registeel can certainly contribute in most cases. He can wall out a lot of Pokemon, but spending 2 hours to then get this Pokemon that frankly plays quite slow and doesn't even solo a single team, it's just not worth the cost, which is something that you actually might not say about our next Pokemon. Number 7, Terrakion. So Terrakion makes for a really interesting placement here because when you look at all of its features, you would think it's really good. Starting off with its base stats, we've got 129 attack, 108 base speed, and very solid bulk. On top of that, its typing is the very obscure Rock Fighting, which makes for a really good offensive combo. This gives you stab super effective against Ice, Steel, Rock, Normal, Dark, Flying Bug, and Fire. There is also, however, a pretty decent downside defensively. Fairy isn't in this generation, but you still take 2 times damage from Fighting, Ground, Steel, Water, Grass, and Psychic. You also have 6 resistances though, so I wouldn't call it purely bad. And with this typing, Terrakion has a very impressive move pool. You start off knowing Rock Slide and Sacred Sword, you can get X Scissor through TM, and you even learn Swords Dance at level 49. And this gives you a good matchup against Caitlyn with X Scissor, Grimsley along with En's Vanillux and Klinklang, and Gets's Bisharp and Bouffalant. So again, again, overall, we've got the makings of a very solid Pokemon. The first issue is unfortunately availability. Terrakion is located at the very end of Victory Road, so right before you fight the Elite Four. But there's an extra little twist here that makes it even worse, and it's that you can only encounter Terrakion once you've encountered Cobalion. And the big issue with this is that Terrakion is worse. And so this requirement here makes it feel a little bit useless. Like, okay, I have Terrakion, it's this Pokemon I want to catch. But in order to get to it, I have to first encounter a better Pokemon that I could just catch and use straight away. And then this compounds on the fact that Terrakion only comes at level 42. That is 8 levels below the Elite Four, 10 levels below N, and 12 levels before the final Ghetsis fight. You're thinking, okay, well, yeah, we're a little bit underleveled, but this is a legendary, right? It's going to be able to make up for that with all its great stats. But being in Gen 5, like, we're kind of in the big leagues now, where all the Pokemon in the league have good natures. The Pokemon in the last 2 fights have perfect IVs. And unlike the rest of the team, which you've been EV training through the whole game, this Terrakion is coming at a point where there are just no EVs for it to get. And so sure, you've got good stats, but being 10 levels below with then worse stat growth bases, whatever IVs, Terrakion's stats just end up being completely nullified by all these forces against it, and it's just not a very good Pokemon to use. Number 6. Raikou. Now, I want to get this out of the way that Raikou is one of the first legendary Pokemon I ever caught. It's arguably my favorite of all time. And on paper, Raikou is a monster. So you may not know this, but like the evolutions, the legendary beasts share the numerical values of their stats, and they're just flipped around to give different builds. And Raikou has its two 115 stats in speed and special attack, which, I mean, really, that says it all right there. You've got a sweeper build stacked on top of the bulk of a legendary Pokemon. And so the one big issue that makes Raikou so bad here is its learn set. In all 3 games, Raikou comes with Quick Attack, Roar, Thundershock, and Leer. It then proceeds to learn Spark just 1 level later at 41. And that's it. That is the entirety of moves that most Raikou players are going to use through the league. There is no learned Thunderbolt, there is no found Thunderbolt TM. You are just Spark gaming against the champion. Against the league, you can zap Will Zatus and Slowbro, Karen's Murkrow, and Koga's Crobat. And despite having 6 flying Pokemon, I would argue that Raikou is even just so-so against Lance. Really, the best version of Raikou in Gen 2 is one with Rain Dance and a $110,000 invested Thunder. With this, you can at least outspeed and then get perfect accuracy Thunder, which does a lot of damage and really is capable of one-shotting quite a few Pokemon. Unfortunately, in all 5 fights, this never sets up the way you're hoping because every single team has something that is either immune or resists electric. Sure, you take out Will Zatu with Thunder, but then out comes Exeggutor and kind of screws up your plans. I guess it's actually fine for Koga, but then it's like you've got Bruno with Dig and Onyx. Karen is just going to pull you into deep water, and there's no way you will solo her. And finally, jumping back to Lance, even if you get the one-shot on Gyarados, he's pulling out Dragonite next to completely disrupt your Rain Dance sweep. So all around, Raikou just really struggles. Now, I think a lot of people are going to disagree with this argument, saying that Raikou is the best electric type. That is absolutely true, simply because there are no other good electric types. But again, it's like we're looking at the best of the best. And as far as Raikou goes, I think it is again just an underperformer compared to many other legendaries. Number 5. Tornadus. So once again, we've got a Pokemon with utterly incredible stats. 125 special attack, 115 attack, 111 speed. It's almost like legendary Pokemon are designed to be good. But unfortunately, and unlike Terrakion, this is where the good ends, because this Pokemon is pure flying. Going up against the league, that basically means that this thing is just sort of a neutral damage machine, which with those stats, I will say is theoretically quite good. You can learn acrobatics, which basically just gives you a 100 base power stab move. But outside of that, it's kind of it. You can teach it Brick Break. You can also level it up to 49 with Crunch, but you're getting this Pokemon at level 40. Now, on one side, it is available just after the 8th gym, so you're gonna have some trainers to level it up on, but it's 2 levels lower than Terrakion, and even worse is it is a roaming Pokemon. Now give the legendary beasts a little bit of leeway on their roaming because the Johto roamers are pretty easy to manipulate. Listen, the Master Ball does save you a little bit of time, but unfortunately, finding a roaming Pokemon is quite tedious, and that is of course time that could be better spent beating the game. It's also really bad against the last 2 fights. Ends Caracosta, Archeops, and Klinklang resist it, and his Vanillux is Ice type for super effective damage. And to make matters worse, if you're playing black, he has a Zekrom, which is electric type. And then for Getsus, it just straight up has no good matchups. And so all that wrapped into a bundle of the same issue that Terrakion faces. Because at the end of the day, it's just a fast flying type. Got Swellow, just basic Staraptor, are putting up better numbers than this dude, and that's really all I need to say. Number 4, Regice. So we already know that the Regis struggle due to a high cost of acquisition. But Regice is going to show us what happens when that high cost intercepts with a very little payoff. Because I am willing to throw out that Regice in Ruby and Sapphire is our first truly bad legendary. The first and arguably once again biggest issue is just obtaining Regice. Now checking out its bases, Regice is the special focused Regi. It's got a ridiculous 200 special defense and a pretty solid 100 special attack. And so when just taking a glance at Regice, most people assume that this thing is at least going to just absolutely rock Drake. Dragon moves are special and dragons are weak to ice. So in theory, Regice should be able to at least sweep the dragon specialist. But what is so absolutely shocking is putting this into practice and watching Regice get folded. The big case for ice types against Drake are his Salamence, Altaria, and Flygon, since their 4x weakness to ice present a huge opportunity to shine. The good thing is Regice can eat a hit from Altaria and clap back with a one-shot. That is unfortunately where the good times end. Salamence consistently 2-shots Regice, so you can't even swap in to eat a hit here. Shelgon's Rock Tomb does like a quarter of its health, and Altaria's Double Edge does even more. So altogether, this fabled ice-type Pokemon that you spend 2 hours to get can kill 2 of 5 Pokemon on what you would expect to be its best matchup. Now, of all the Elite Four, Regice is probably best against Sydney, which is unfortunately the easiest of the 5. Next up is Phoebe, who uses the physical ghost type, so it's not a great look here either. Probably the biggest thing going for Regice in the league is actually walling Glacia, since she can't hit you for super effective damage. Oh wait, no, I always forget this. Ice doesn't resist water, so actually, I take that back. In Ruby and Sapphire, 3 of her Pokemon have water moves, so it's not even completely resisting moves here. I mean, it is still walling with 200 special defense, but like, it doesn't even resist. But then if all that wasn't disappointing enough, you have Champion Steven, who has rock moves, steel moves, even ground moves will probably wreck you. Regice has a lot going for it in theory, but it is a great case study to show how defensive, slow ice-type Pokemon are bad. There are just so many strong physical moves in this league that slowly chip down Regice, bypassing its big wall. And unless it's weak to ice, it just can't really do anything back at the enemy. Now, side note, we're not looking at Emerald, but I will say that Regice in Emerald is better because the champion is water. But even here, there's just so many physical moves like Double Edge, 2 Earthquakes. There's even things like Leech Seed that just stop Regice from being able to really succeed in any way. So at the end of the day, there's just no reason to spend 2 hours to get an Ice Beam user that is worse than a Tentacruel you randomly fish up. Now, for long-term fans of my past channels, you probably know that I'm certainly no stranger to a good old-fashioned list video, but I've decided to adopt Wolfie's formula of doing the honorable mention before you do the top 3 because I like the idea of podium all going at once. And our first honorable mention is actually Ho-Oh of Crystal. So in Crystal specifically, you can get Ho-Oh before the league, but with a very high cost to acquire. The requirement is that after catching Suicune in Tin Tower, you then need to catch the other 2 roaming legendary beasts. Can't trade it from another game, you gotta catch them in yours legitimately. One of them will go down with a Master Ball, and then you have to, do the annoying, track it, mean look, hypnosis, whatever. That is realistically a 1 to 2 hour grind. So it's a really high cost, and that's why Ho-Oh is getting an honorable mention, but it is far, far from making this list. Ho-Oh is just an absolute monster. It's coming at level 60. It's like 670, whatever base stats, 130 attack. Give it Earthquake. That's all it needs. It'll kill Lance's team with just Earthquake. Trust me, it won't do that. But listen, Ho-Oh is really good, and I just thought I'd mention it. I will say, however, that I think of all the box art legendaries, Lugia is probably the worst in its original generation, and it's also getting an honorable mention. Objectively, not a bad Pokemon. You bring it to the league, you're gonna have a good time. But unfortunately in this game, Lugia is a psychic type that doesn't learn a psychic move until level 99. And I mean, yeah, Lugia with Aeroblast is a pretty good time. You're not gonna struggle. But comparing that, coming at level 40 to like, I don't know, a level 70 Rayquaza, level 60 Ho-Oh, actually a level 40 Ho-Oh, Groudon, Kyogre with sun-sending abilities, it's just, I don't know. Lugia is a very good Pokemon, but I think of the box art legendaries, Silver Lugia is probably the worst of all of them. We should also mention Kubfu and Cosmog. Listen, these aren't fully evolved Pokemon, and if you choose to not evolve them, you're playing the game wrong. They didn't fail you, you failed them, and their final forms are crazy. And the last honorable mention we have is Wo-Chien. Overall, very good Pokemon, but if you're putting in the effort to get one of these Pokemon, this is not the one you should be going for. Darkgrass isn't exactly an awesome type. Actually, its typing for that matter just isn't really that great for the league. And compared to the other three, its ability to lower the enemy's attack is not really that special when you think about how many Intimidate users exist. It's still good. Please don't hate me. Let's move on. Number 3, Entei. For everything that the other two legendary beasts do bad in Johto, the same can be said for Entei, but worse. The first big issue for Entei is stat distribution. Unlike Suicune and Raikou, which really know what Pokemon they are, Entei has this going on. It's pretty bulky, and it's certainly fast enough to outspeed everything, but where is that special attack? Because like, look at this learn set. Entei comes with Ember, Fire Spin, Leer, and Roar. And unlike the other two who get a stab move at 41, Entei gets Stomp. You could just teach Entei Headbutt, which has the same flinch chance and does more damage. Like, I'm sorry, but just like, where is Flame Wheel? Entei's first new fire move is Flamethrower, but this doesn't come until level 51, which is after the cap of the champion fight. So you're not getting this until Kanto. And again, if you want Fire Blast, because this is Gen 2, you have to pinch your pennies or you're just not going to be able to afford it. The worst part of all, though, is Fire just kind of sucks for the league. Now, admittedly, it actually has a pretty good start, beating Will's Exeggutor and Jinx, along with Koga's Venomoth, Ariados, and Fortress. Worse, though, is Entei stops doing good stuff where it becomes important. Its only use for Bruno is just kind of like bulking the Pokemon that aren't super effective against him. He's taken out like Vileplume and probably Murkrow before going down to Karen. And then it's Lance, which you will do absolutely nothing to. So all this stacks together for the best use case of Entei to be running Headbutt and Dig. Which, guess what? There's another Pokemon that can do this basically exactly as good. In Pokemon Crystal, Growlithe has 8 gyms of availability on Entei. It comes with Bite for Ghost and Psychic Pokemon, can learn both Dig and Headbutt, can evolve to reach stats that rival Entei after the 2nd gym, and Arcanine even has higher special attack than Entei. And that to me is just the final nail in the coffin. Arcanine with all that availability is not even the best Pokemon in the game. And so for a legendary to be basically rivaled by that with 5 fights to go, Entei has the stats and potential to become great as it does in later generations, but in Gen 2, it is just awful. Number 2, Moltres. Okay guys, we have officially broached terrible territory. So in Generation 1, the precedent for strong legendary birds is set by Zapdos and Articuno. They come after the 5th gym and really just help you out in every single fight until the end of the game. Moltres unfortunately breaks this mold. In Generation 1, it comes all the way at the end of Victory Road at the same level, and then it's time for the absolute wash that is the Elite Four. Lorelei might be an ice trainer, but for all intents and purposes, she is a water trainer. Also is already out-leveling Moltres. It's an awful start for this thing. Next up, you've got Bruno, who Moltres actually is fairly good good for, but this is not an achievement because Gen 1 Bruno can get soloed by basically any Pokemon, but except for hilariously Moltres because he has 2 Onix. As for Agatha, this is a pretty neutral fight. Moltres is certainly not soloing her, but it's helping out at least. And then, of course, you've got Lance, which by this point, I think we've learned that fire types are not good against Lance. Finally, Moltres is able to take out the champion's grass type and maybe his leading Pidgeot. Oh, and the moves it comes with are Peck and Fire Spin. That's it. It's got Leer at 51, Agility at 55, and then Sky Attack at 60. It is a tragic Pokemon given tragic placement, and it is the second worst legendary of all time. But if you want to know true horror, try using our #1 Pokemon in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Because when you choose Regirock in Hoenn, you choose pain. As we've mentioned before, you start this grand journey with a nice little 2-hour catching tutorial. And Regirock is the physical Regi, having high defense and attack. And lucky for you, you can get it just in time for the upcoming water gym, where here Regirock is able to kill a single Love Disc. Wow, it barely survives a single hit from anything else and can only hit back with ancient power. That is unless you happen to have drank enough paint thinner that you think it is a good idea to teach this pile of rocks Thunderbolts. But hey, let's think positive, right? It's not like we picked up Regirock for the 8th gym. We learned Braille so we could bring this big, meaty rock boy to the Elite Four. Starting off, it's time for Sydney's Mightyena, where Regirock slowly kills it. Well done, Regirock. Regirock also can slowly wall out Absol, and that is it, because, oh, look, Sydney has 2 grass types and a water Pokemon. Let's move on. Up next is Phoebe, where Regirock can't one-shot anything. Gee, I sure hope it doesn't get Confused Raid, or Cursed, or Will-O-Wisp, or Thunderbolted, or Ice Beamed. Well, hey guys, no worries, because guess what? It is time for Glacia. That's right, the Ice Specialist, where finally, Regirock can just manage to take out 2 whole Glalie on its own, as long as her Celio didn't set up Hail. But hey, special bonus points if you're playing Emerald because Glacia Celios don't have water moves. So you just might be able to... No, sadly, Hail is just too much for poor Regirock. But hey, don't worry, buddy. You've got Flyers coming up. You love flying types. 60 BP Ancient Power, that's gonna show Salamence who's boss. Except, oh wait, Regirock ends up doing less damage than Dragon Claw from Salamence. Flygon dusts the rock right off, Kingdra washes it out, and the dude is left to do nothing but try and take out Altaria and Shelgon. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, the final fight is even worse. It doesn't matter what game you're playing. Against Steven, Regirock's rock hard defense do nothing when every single Pokemon on his team hits you for super effective damage. And then, even worse, is Emerald Wallace, where, let's see, Wailord, no, Ludicolo, no, Wishcash, no, Milotic, wait, Gyarados, Earthquake, and Surf. And ladies and gentlemen, let's not forget that all this power was available to any 8-year-old willing to learn Braille. So have a great time with all that. This is Regirock Gaming.